Hey guys, how you doing? I'm taking a break. I've been working like a mine mule today. Well, probably not like a mine mule. I've been working pretty hard. Anyway, I've been on vacation. Me and Grace has been enjoying herself with some time together, doing some things, and I got to go back to work in the morning. But I thought I would do a 2023 garden review as far as how things worked out for us here at our little place. And I took some notes. It's not going to be exact. It's not going to be exaggerated. It'll probably be on the lower side because I didn't want to exceed what we did on paper. But I did take some notes as far as how the gardens went this year, and thought I'd share that with you. And at the end, I've been working on this list that I want to talk to you about a little bit that maybe you can try as well, and maybe give me some suggestions also. But I'll show you what I've got going on and what we've done so far. But let me get in this thing. I don't want to take all your time today. I always say that. You know, I'm telling a big old lie. But anyway, if you'll stay with me, we're going to start with tomatoes. And we'll just start with there, and I'll just tell you what we've got going there. The successes and the failures. And everything didn't work out all right this year. But we did have some good things going on. But tomatoes, we had planted over here in the big in-ground garden 150 to 175 tomato plants. And what we did is I would take a piece of rebar, and I would put that in the ground and put 2 tomato plants about 18 inches apart, and then put another piece of rebar, and I'd run that down all the way down the rows, and we had 2 rows, and then we did a Carolina wheat, and that's what we ran there. Not exactly the way the Carolina weave is supposed to work. I modified it a little bit for myself, but we did do that. And we had different varieties. We had a beefsteak, an Empire which is a hybrid tomato. I love that tomato. It's a great tomato. A Celebrity, large cherries, Romas, brandy wines, and some type of heirloom tomato. I can't remember what that was. It wasn't a Cherokee purple. I just don't remember what it was. It was something good to me. And then the small cherries, the normal ones. We did plant some of the sun golds or sun rays, the golden little tomatoes. Not one of those came up. The plants came up, but they never produced any fruit. I'm not sure why. We planted them in the raised beds. The other plants did okay, but for some reason they never come up. I don't know why. So that was a failure on that part. But the yields, had great yields on the beefsteak. I give that a big check plus because of the yields on that. The Empires were questionable as far as the previous years. We had a good harvest on that. We were really getting the tomatoes in, but typically those Empires really throw out the tomatoes, and they did do okay this year, but not normal. The Celebrity, I gave it a check minus. Again, it's a little bit below the norm. Of course, the heat was pretty horrific this year. The Romas, I never grow Romas well. Don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I tried something different this year, and I had a little bit better success. For one thing, over here on the lower end, it's a little more sandier soil on this side here closer to the creek, which I'm pointing at over there. You have to forgive me, excuse me there, my sinuses, been out here all day. But it's a little bit more sandy soil on the right side down there on the lower end. And what I did is I planted these tomato plants. I didn't stake them, for one. I just let them grow. And I was watching this guy. He was just piling dirt up on his tomato plants, and that's what I did. And actually, the Romas did the best that I've ever done with the Roma. So I'm going to try that again next year. We did get some Roma tomato plants, or tomatoes off of those plants. But I'm just going to leave that as a question mark. I'm not going to call that a success or failure because I really didn't put a lot of time into it. All the plants came up and they looked great. There was some disease. There was some yellowing going on. Not much, very, very minimum cat facing, and no blight. I really had maybe 1 plant that had blight, but overall I didn't have to deal with blight this year, which was good. There was some tomatoes that split on me. Again, they was so hot at times, and then the rain would come, and that would cause that. But I did had a very minimum blossom end rot, and I believe that had a lot to do with the way I put the calcium to the plants early on. I used the gypsum from the drywall, and I really put it to each plant out there at the beginning, and then I added again throughout the growing season. So I think that has a lot to do with that. I did take a note, and we are going to do that again next year. Okay, I also sprayed our tomato plants with copper. It's just a liquid copper. The fertilizers I used was fish emulsion, and rabbit poo. I didn't use any chicken manure or anything like that, but I also used a 10-10 fertilizer. We did have so that was my fertilizer for the year on those. We had a volunteer cherry tomato plant that came up in the greenhouse. It was the most prolific cherry plant I think I've ever grew, which I had nothing to do with. I didn't put it in the ground. We had put when I built the greenhouse, I put 2 small raised beds on either side, on the inside of it. I guess one of the seeds fell, but I just let it go and go and go. And all the plants, the seedlings, I removed out of the greenhouse, so there's nothing in there except this tomato plant. And this thing grew up and over through, I mean, it just grew and grew and grew. And we got all kinds of tomato plants, or tomatoes off of that one. And I never watered it but once. That was it. I took a hose and I just sprayed the inside of the greenhouse and let it drop. And that was it, the only time. And it was hot. And it stayed hot in there, over 100 degrees the whole time. But either way, that tomato plant did very well. Okay, side notes, of course, the weather fluxed this year. I did plant early. I planted 2 weeks earlier than normal this year, our tomato plants. And what I did is I knew we would have a frost, maybe 2, and I was already ready in case it did, but I put them out there 2 weeks early, and when the frost came, I was prepared for it because I'd already run the line down through the rebar. That way I could put my agribond over top of it, and we only lost 1 tomato plant. So I'm going to keep that in mind also for this coming year if we're all here. And again, I did have to cover twice. We had 2 frosts, I made note. And again, we only lost that 1 plant, so we did have to cover those twice. But overall, tomatoes were a success. There was a time period of 3 weeks and a half, about 3.5 weeks there. I'm not lying, every day I was picking a half a bushel of tomatoes. Every day. That's a lot of tomatoes for 3.5 weeks. And so that was at 23 pounds on a half bushel times 21 days, 483 pounds. I stopped counting after that. And it just kept coming in. And it would come in for a long time. It was just 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, 10 days ago, I pulled up my last tomato plant. We stored, canned, whatever you want to call it, stewed tomatoes. We made tomato juice, tomato soup, salsa. We sold some. We were selling tomatoes on Gracie's plant stand for 75 cents a pound. We gave a whole lot of those away, but I'm going to say tomatoes for the year was a great success. Okay, so let's move on. Corn on the cob. We grew an ambrosia corn. That's my favorite corn. It does very well here. We planted 6 rows at 100 feet. The first picking, we put up 184 ears, 23 bags. And how I do it is I shuck it, cut the tips off if they need to, put 8 in a bag, and run it through that food saver. And so we got 8 per bag, and we had 23 bags that first picking. A little later, we put up another 168, 21 bags. So our freezers had 352 ears of corn in them. We gave 5 dozen away on the first day. We sold 5 dozen at $4 a dozen on Gracie's plant stand, and we gave another 6 dozen away just a little while later. And the rest we just fed to the squirrels and the chickens. And so I'm going to give our corn harvest this year, again, that's 6 rows at 100 feet, so 600 feet of corn, a check plus. Absolutely did very well on the corn. Again, heavy fertilizer at the beginning, heavy nitrogen. I mean, I throw the rabbit poop on everything that I start, but heavy fertilizer at the beginning. Side dressed it a couple times, and I did notice that the corn only got about 5, not even quite 6 foot tall, but most of the stalks had 2 ears of corn on them, so that was good. Okay, but we did have to start picking real early because I noticed the squirrels. Squirrels is my corn predator. They give me the hardest times, but I think I pointed that out. And I also used the triple 10 on that as well throughout the times that we did fertilizer. Side note, I did plant 2 rows across in the other field over there. It come up very good. I didn't have a chance to really get over there and pay attention to it, but the deer got it. They just wiped it out. But it does grow good over there. I just don't have time to do this and that. I was just kind of experimenting. The soil across in the other field is very sandy, and it works well for melon type produce and corn. So I'm going to say the corn was a great success. Squash and zucchini, I did cut back on the plants this year. I'm giving that a check minus. I wasn't very impressed this year on the squash and zucchini, even though we did get in abundance. It was less than a typical year. Still had plenty to sell, again on Gracie's plant stand, and we gave a lot of that stuff away. We made some zucchini bread. Again, this is Gracie's little entrepreneur, and this is how she saves her money, raises money for herself. But we made some zucchini bread. We saw the little ones about like that big, and she sold 12 of those little pound loaves for $2.50 a piece. And that's a little bit more money for her business. It was somewhat of a failure overall. I was disappointed more in the squash. The squash bugs tore me up this year, but they came in so hard and so fast. You had to really get it going this year. But overall, it's a little less than last year. It wasn't the best we've ever done. Let's move on. Cucumbers. Cucumbers looked great. When they first came up for about 3 weeks, they were very productive. They were throwing out the cucumbers, but the weather affected the fruit as it did the squash and the zucchini. Cucumbers was our hot item on the plant stand. We couldn't keep them out there, and we were selling those at 50 cents a pound. And again, we're not trying to make a whole lot of money on the plant stand because we want to bless folks, because we use the plant stand in the garden to witness the gospel. That's how I draw people in. I want to take them to the garden, take them to the garden. And before they get back, they've done heard about Jesus and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to use this to draw folks in here. And again, we want to be a blessing. We don't charge. And if somebody bought something, we give excess. More than what they bought, but it does help a little bit with Gracie saving her some money. Out of the cucumbers, we did pickle 25 jars of dill pickles. We love our pickles here, me and Gracie. Let's see, did make some pickle, pepper, and onion relish, and I just cold canned that, put that in the refrigerator downstairs. And I did do a replant on some of these cucumbers, but again, the sun was so hot, and they just really never had an opportunity to take off. Tried 2 different areas, and both areas failed. I couldn't get anything off of it. Peppers. I've still got at least 20 banana peppers out there that are still throwing out peppers. I can't give them away. I mean, they are loaded. Each plant is loaded with banana peppers. I've got the sweet bananas, but I've also got the hot bananas too. So they're out there. Very good year. Best year I've ever had actually on peppers. In 12 years here. Bell pepper plants, I had 8 plants. Again, very good. It was typical for each plant to hold about 8 to 10 peppers on there. And these peppers were probably about like that. Very good bell pepper. Very pleased with the peppers. We're going to do that again. We saved some seeds there. Jalapeno, again, I still got 6 jalapeno plants out there, and they're still throwing it on. So all peppers, I'm giving a check plus. Good year on that. Green beans. Had 100-foot row of a heritage bush bean. I've had that seed for quite some years. And out of that row, I picked early because we had groundhog pressure. No more, but we did have. and I had to get that picked a little bit early, but we were able to put up 21 quarts off that one row, and they're in the freezer. Pink-eyed purple hull peas. We had one row. I grew it for the neighbor. Picked her a big half bushel. I mean, that's all she can handle. She's an elderly woman, but she has to have her purple hull peas. Grew that for her. I got some also. Saved that, and I just mowed the rest of it down because nobody else around here eats that. But I did grow that for her. It could have gone on and on, but I went ahead and mowed that down. Sugar snap peas. Early in the season, I grew in a 4x4 raised bed, and I trellised it, and we got 12 quart bags off of that. Sugar snap peas. I couldn't believe it. That was a good little harvest off of that. I've got a replant out here. They're struggling. Again, it's been so hot and dry, but they're probably about like that. I don't know if we're going to get anything off of it, but we'll see. Carrots. I always raise one carrot bed, a 4x4, dwarf carrot. I don't grow for the long carrots. I grow this for the rabbits. And I only get the little ones because you don't want to get too much sugar to the rabbits. I grow it mainly for the greenery. They love that greenery, and I still got carrots out there right now. So it was a positive on that. Potatoes, 2 rows at 100 feet, 4 bushels are in my basement. And I've still got 25 feet on both 2 rows. I've got the red potatoes and the white potatoes. And I still got 25, so 50 feet left of potatoes to get out. I'm just leaving them in the ground, see what happens. Best year I've ever had on potatoes. The cool thing on that is a neighbor dropped me off half a box of potatoes. So there was 0 cost in that one. It just took a little time for me to get out there and plow it up and turn it over and get it tilled and then plant. Gracie helped me with that. And I'm going to give the potatoes a check plus. Onions, we grew the yellow and the Texas sweet. Very good year on onions. I've got 3 cords. I don't know if you've ever seen that. You tie them up, put them on cords and hang them, but each one of these cords is 15 pounds a piece. I've got 3 of those hanging in the basement. And what I did on the basement is I blacked out the windows and to keep it cool in there and no light whatsoever. The potatoes have been there over a month. No issues with potatoes and no issue with the onions. So apparently, and that was in there in the heat. So I'm excited about that. And we gave 10 pounds of the onions away. So the onions were very good. And I've still got onions that are on my shelf in one of my closets. And there's probably another 20 pounds in there. So we had a very good year of onions. Broccoli at the very beginning, very large heads, and I grow those in wicking tubs mainly. Got a lot of wicking tubs. I only got 3 up there now, but broccoli does very good in a wicking tub. But anyway, we had some large heads off of that at the beginning of the year, and I took a couple, put them in the freezer, and gave the rest of those away. So that's a check plus. Cabbage. I'm not excited about the cabbage this year, but I did let it grow because it looked very good. It's hard, dense, heavy heads, but then you get into cutting down there at the bottom and it's filled with bugs. I don't know what to do about that. I've tried everything I know to do to keep those bugs out of there. I'm going to have to investigate and do a little bit more on that. Overall, 2023 garden was a success here. I'm very pleased. I have got 3/4 of that garden cover crop right now with some red clover, white clover, crimson clover, collard greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, spinach, beets. So we're going to have that cover crop, and I've got 1 row of okra in the main. It's the Clemson spineless. I'm still getting okra off of that, and on the very back side, I've got 2 more small rows of okra as well. I'm also testing on the hoop there at the front of the garden. I planted some McCaslin green beans, and that is from the seeds that had grew up on the trellis, and I just planted those to see if they're going to be viable, and they're doing very well. So I'm excited about that, but that's where that garden is. I won't take you over there to take up no more of your time. So 2023, I'm very excited about it. It was a good year. We learned some things. A little bit different, tried a couple things different, but overall, I'm going to say it's a success, even though we had some failures along the way. Now, here's the list I want to talk to you about, and I'll be done. Over the last 3 years, I've been working on a list of things that I do not want to buy from the store, like a Walmart, grocery store, something like that. And I've been adding to this list for the last 3 years, and now we are up to 13 items that I have not bought from the store. And this is a list I want to go over with you. First of all, I haven't bought eggs in over 3 years. I haven't bought pinto beans. I haven't bought corn. Actually, I haven't bought corn in probably 5 or 6 years. But I haven't bought corn. I haven't bought okra. I haven't bought sugar snap peas, green beans, tomato juice or tomato soup, salsa, jalapeno peppers I haven't bought. I haven't bought onions, although I did run short a little last year, early about February. I did buy like a 5-pound bag, something like that. But other than that, I haven't bought onions. Potatoes I've added to the list this year, because I did buy potatoes and had prior to that. But I've got enough potatoes in that basement to get us all the way through till next year. Let's see, I've already wrote down pinto beans. Actually, it's 12 items. I said 13, but it's 12. I've got pinto beans down here twice, and rice. And that's because I bought some bulk rice 3 years ago, and I food saved it, killed it in the freezer, killed the bugs in the freezer, and put it in stored it in the food server bags. And I've got that in buckets, and I checked it, and we eat from it. As a matter of fact, one month, a couple months ago, all I ate was out of that bucket, the preservatives, the preserved food of the rice and the beans. That's what I ate for the whole month, and I'd add meat here and there, but that's what I ate every day, and so that was still good. So we're up to 12 items that we had not bought from the store. I'm gonna look at some things this year. Did I write down there broccoli? No, there's the 13th, broccoli. I haven't bought broccoli in 3 years either, so that's another thing. Okay, well guys, that's 2023 garden review. I give it a big thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, even though we had some failures along the way. Again, I've already said that, and we were able to add a couple items to our list of things that I had not bought in the last couple, 2-3 years. So anyway, I hope everybody's well. Hey, winter's coming. That's what I've been doing. I'm winterizing the gardens and getting everything ready to go, getting the vehicles ready, just doing some minor tune-ups on some of the infrastructure, the buildings, and the things for the chickens and the rabbits and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, guys, I hope y'all are well. I hope everything is going good for you, and your animals are well, your families are well, and I'll see you on the next video. We'll see what we can come up with. I know I've been running short on videos, just been too busy, and I really want to get this vacation in and spend some time with Gracie, and so we can have some papaw and granddaughter time. And we've had an awesome time this past week or so. So anyway, until next time, y'all take care out there.